Wealth, fame, power. Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, attained this and everything else the world had to offer. And his dying words drove countless souls to the seas.
You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I gathered together in one place. Now you just have to find it.
These words lured men to the Grand Line in pursuit of dreams greater than they'd ever dared to imagine. This is the time known as the Great Pirate Era.
Come aboard and bring along all your hopes and dreams. Together we will find everything that we're looking for. One Piece.
Yes, and welcome aboard to another serving of A Boy in a Barrel podcast. Good to have you back on the crew. On today's episode, we're setting up to set sail for a tasty serving of the sea restaurant, the Baratie Arc. Fantastic. Cannot wait to get into this one. Plenty to unpack. I'm one of your hosts, Dane Peavy. I am the one that is watching One Piece for the very first time. It is a long journey. And to help me with this journey is my one and only other co-host, my good friend, joined with me, head chef and Pirate King himself, Nato J. Mate, how are you?
I saw you trying to do Pirate King and co-host at the same time, and the words, both of them tried to come out of your mouth because I saw your mouth doing the P, and then you went co-host, and it was like such a painful thing to watch just then.
I love it. Mate, that's why I got you here. My friend.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah. Good. Awesome.
Good.
We're getting into, as like you've said off stream to me, well, off recording to me, as the arc that finally locked it in for you. So I'm actually excited for you, and that's why you're kind of hosting this one, because this is your big episode that you, on your second watch through, have kind of, all right, I see where you're going with this One Piece thing here, Nato.
100%, mate. This is exactly where I was talking about in the episodes coming up to it. This is where the storytelling really pays dividends. We unpack this.
Yeah.
Oh man, I cannot wait.
And what's the word? Where something's because like here, I'll just describe what I can't think of the word, so I'll just do the dictionary definition of just like everyone doesn't say this is the arc that's like the big one. It's next arc that everyone like, next Long Park arc. Yeah. But you and me, I think as well, like this is actually the secret one that you don't remember how much it hit you because the next arc comes on very strong. But this is the one that does hook you, especially after bloody what is that arc called? Syrup Village.
Yeah, Syrup Village, yeah. So we talked about that. So where we left off last time, we've left Syrup Village. Who's on the ship now? So we've got Captain Luffy. We've got Zoro. We've got
Captain Usopp.
Captain Usopp, that's right. So that's the battling there. He thinks he's the captain. We've got Nami, all right? So we've got the four of them now. And so we've left Syrup Village, and we're basically just out in sea, right?
Yep.
And we're just biding time. And I guess this is where the flashback first comes in.
I was about to say we get that.
Yeah.
As the screen gets murky.
I don't think it's one of these.
No, it's definitely not.
It's definitely not one of those.
But if this was a Western cartoon, 100%, that's the kind of stuff that would be happening at the start of this episode.
100%. But it goes back. I like this. So this is where it really clawed me in. So you go back, and Zoro's. How old do you reckon Zoro is when he goes back, when he shows his childhood here?
I think there is a number, but I'm gonna throw it out and say 10.
10. All right, I like it. Yep. I'd say it's 10.
I haven't got kids, so I'm getting to that age where it's hard to actually remember what you were like at certain ages.
Yeah,
I think of myself as this like big time, like big grown up when I was in like year 7, and then like I see year 7s and they're little children that like can't even peel their oranges, and I'm like, nah.
Well, mate, I've got 3 kids, so I'll step up. I think he's probably roughly around between 8 and 10. I think you're spot on, mate. So good job.
Yeah.
So what do we got? We got a flashback. Zoro is remembering good old times when he's between 8 and 10. He's the kid in the next village, and he's gone over to, I guess, the village across the road, and he's challenged the dojo leader or teacher or sensei, I should say. And so he's done the old school, like, I will challenge you. Let's go. If I win, I get to take your dojo. And if I lose, I become a student of here. And then the dojo sensei brings out his daughter, which is Kuina. And so Kuina's probably a little bit older. I'd say, like, if he's 8, she'd be 12. And she kicks his ass. And Zoro, basically, that's the first time you see Zoro's ever picked up a sword. What's he got? He's got the bamboo swords. And so he basically, he has the idea where the more swords you have...
Either training swords or kendo.
Yeah, kendo
like training
swords.
swords as well.
So he picks up as many swords as he can hold in both arms and his mouth, and he gets his ass whooped. And I think that's his first realization where he wants to join, he wants to get better, and he sees his first, I guess, lifetime rival in Kuina. And then it goes on to him joining the dojo and them constantly having this rivalry of constant battles and training. And Kuina basically just keeps winning. And I think like the number that they use is about, I think like the second battle that you see from the first one, there's about like, I don't know, they overemphasize it, but it's like 2,000 wins. And so I'm assuming that's like 2,000 wins against Zoro.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. But it's really cool. I mean, like, it goes back, does the flashback, like, he's got this drive and ambition to basically become...
Zoro was 10.
Zoro was 10? Did you check it out? Yeah, good job. There you go, man.
And Kuina was 11.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow, only a year. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
She's tall. So, yeah, so and then it goes on to basically, there's that rivalry that continues to happen, and then you have that Kuina hardship because she gets to the point there where she knows, well, the father basically says that you can never take over the dojo and you'll never become the strongest swordsman in the world because you are a girl. And it has that theme as to saying that girls, when they get older, they become less strong as opposed to men, and you will never be able to keep up. And then that obviously really hits her hard and drives her. And I think it's one of those ones where, like, at nighttime, I think it was after, like, they battle once more, they can see, and, like, everyone in the dojo, and I'm talking, like, adults and kids, because these two kids seem to be, Zoro and Kuina, are beating up all the adults. So it's one of those ones where, they're just top of the shelf, they're the strongest within the dojo, both the kids and the adults are beating everyone up. But Zoro, even though I think it flash forwards, like, to a year later, and they see that Zoro, has gotten stronger and has progressed, and you show his training and he's doing so much of it, and then they do a rematch again, and he loses and he just can't understand why. And then I think he challenges her to use real swords, and that's like the final challenge. It's like, this is it, final challenge, let's go. And then they meet up in the, like, one of the, like, the fields, I guess, and they battle and he loses again. And I think that's where it sort of comes out that she is saying, like, you're so lucky, you were born a male. That means that you get to live out your dream of becoming the strongest swordsman in the world. And then he sort of really gives it back to her to say, how can you say these things? You are the reason why, I strive every day. One of us is going to be the strongest, and we got to strive, and we got to make sure we're the strongest. One of us is going to achieve the same goal and the same outcome that we're after. But then it takes a turn, mate. So wait.
We'll pause there. This is such a, like, I know this is coming from a male, but, like, this is a cool plot line of, like, doing the stereotypical, like, women can't be stronger than male, like, of the writing of the time. Because this episode came out in 2000.
Okay.
So, like, that has a little bit of date. I know 2000 still were progressive, but, not as progressive as we are these days.
Yep.
But it's that, like, that old, like, oh, women can't do this and can't do that. And Zoro, like, not even seeing that and being like, I don't care. Like, you are better than me. It doesn't matter about gender or anything like that. And for you to just, like, cop out and say, like, oh, I'm not going to be better because I'm a woman, and not because I beat you because of my own, like, skill. Like, I just genetically beat you, not. And it's like, that's bullshit. Like, I can't let the person I'm trying to strive for just give up, because that means the goal I'm striving for is giving up.
Yes.
And it's a really cool, like, nearly, like, very modern kind of storytelling thing, even though, like, it's not. It's very old. We'll see some stuff later on in his writing that is a bit dated, but this is one of those, like,
he steps up moment.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
it's a strong scene.
And also it makes Zoro be, like, this, like, awesome character, and that, doesn't give a crap about
any of
religion, and all that.
It's a great scene, and like he busts his ass. Like I like how they do the whole Rocky moments, you know, like he's on the screen, he's like lifting weights, he's holding weights, he's even from the get go, like he seems to be. It's not at the start where it's like he's going for that 3-sword training. He just seems to always have weights in his hand. He knows his sort of limitations. It seems to be like his strength that he's like lacking, so he works on that.
It also shows that because his training is very training the attributes of a man though as well. Like he's doing strength and all that, and still loses to her. Yeah, which shows like it's nothing to do with like strength. She is just a genuinely better fighter than him. It like still seals in that like. No, still nothing to do with like it's because Zoro's a kid and he needs to level up more. And it's like no, it doesn't matter that boy girl. She is just a better fighter than him.
Yeah, and you know what I was interested in. It was it's interesting with this type of training. I'd imagine if anyone out there is listening to this has ever done this sort of training, he works on strength. That's all he does. It's all aggression. It's all a strength training. But there's never any mindfulness training. Like in that sort of thing, there's no strategy. There's no nothing like that, which gives me a bit of. Like when I was watching this, I go, okay, like this is early days, so don't overthink this. But I think there's a lot of progression that could happen in the future when he does the whole like, again, go back to Dragon Ball bit, like when he sort of become a bit centered in the mindset, and he starts doing that. Anyway, I think he does that later on, like he slowly touch on it. But what do you think? No,
you see him doing bullshit strength stuff. Like he has like a weight that's like nearly made out as a like set up like a sword.
Yeah.
And there's like you see it like has like 100 kilos as one of the weights, and the next one, and then he's like swinging it like a sword.
Oh, okay. I've seen that. Yeah,
so
He constantly does that. Yeah. I did see that. He's on the boat doing that. That's fucking unreal. Mate, here's the big elephant in the room. So we fall in love with these two characters. We got such high hopes
very quickly because this is all compressed into one episode.
Yeah, and we should say like we've got a lot to unpack in this arc, and there's so many elements in it. We were just talking offline about this, how we're going to do this, and we'll do the best we can. But you fall in love very quickly with these two characters, and you think there's going to be some rivalry here. You know, whether there's going to be some Naruto Sasuke type rivalry that's going to go on for years and years. It's very short. Very, very, very short, mate. What do you think? What's your 2 cents on? Let me tell you, because let me tell you my 2 cents, because this is a bit of like what does the new kid think, and then what does the experienced, better, well-known person think? Mate, I was a bit sad because as I said, I really wanted that story to progress. I thought they could have lent up to something pretty good, and then she fucking died. But very quickly, by a bunch of stairs. She fell down the stairs. So I think it was something like, I'm trying to remember now, but it was basically that she went for her sword or something, went to sharpen her sword, and she fell down the stairs. But it was just so brutally dull, pardon the pun, that like how it sort of just went like, I don't know, like for something so creative and such storytelling to fall down a bunch of stairs. Like, fuck. And I remember before I even saw much of One Piece, and again, walking down the street, I remember seeing like a couple of memes out there just being like, you know, arch nemesis of One Piece being just stairs. And I'm like, what does this even mean? But
a whole bunch of people cop some big accidents from stairs,
So what was what was like the overall fan base thinking about these bloody stairs?
So look, there's two big theories about the stair death and all that, because it is kind of something that's not really we don't talk about the means. We just talk that like she died and he like because it's the death is so sudden after like it's the day after they both promised each other that they will both, you know, in a Luffy way, like strive to be the greatest swordsman in the world, not just like better each other, but like confess their goals of doing that. And the two biggest theories of there is like the falling down the stairs can be like an analogy for suicide.
Yeah, okay.
And because it's a kid's show, you can't really, you know, say that she committed suicide, because even the mention of like going for her sword, you know, like the Japanese like suicide and all that, because she's worried that like as much as what he said that day before of like, but I'm still going to hit a point as a woman and not going to be, going to be able to do it. And I'm never going to be able to achieve my goal. So what is the point of going forward.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Okay.
And then like that spurs Zoro on more of like, now I definitely have to do it for her, because she didn't even think she could do it because of her like nearly like her birth. Like she from the start the cards were against her and all that. So now like as me, that's somebody that apparently the cards are in my favor. I am dishonoring her by not completing the goal that we set and all that. So that's like the big one, and it makes a bit more sense as well. Like there are a lot of like suicide related things in anime and all that, because it's a big thing in Japan because of their work kind of ethics and stuff like that. But it is still tried to be aimed towards a very younger audience in a sense.
Yep.
Being in the shonen magazines and all that. So I don't know if he wanted to risk doing this, because he's never really talked about it. I don't think I've looked it up many times.
And we could be
found anything.
we could be overthinking this. It could be just one of these things where, because it really they cram all this flashback into one episode.
Where it's not in the manga.
No,
it is a bit more stretched out and stuff. Yeah. We've seen like when Zoro got introduced, we got his backstory in the manga.
Right. Okay. Because I guess what the big delivery here is that there was the ultimate goal that they were both working towards, and they were both getting stronger working towards that goal. And it's like one of those things, the whole, if they didn't have each other working towards, like fighting each other from the competitiveness to get to the same objective, they wouldn't have reached the levels. So like the whole, Goku versus Vegeta bit. But it does, I love what happens next. So obviously, yes, there's that.
Yeah, I'll give the second big theory is like Oda uses it as a metaphor of like how fragile life is. Okay. As in like very strong, like people being able to just be snuffed out that quick. It's nothing to do, like life is precious because you never know how, like, and that whole like, the joke of like, just falling downstairs is like, it can happen.
Yeah. Okay.
Like you,
in the most unexpected way. Could be taken.
Yeah, and like literally the day after they made their goal, she died. So then it like that's also like spurs like Zoro of like, I don't know when my last day is, so I've got to put 100% in every day to achieve this goal, because I could fall down the stairs tomorrow in a sense and just die, and I might not be able to achieve my goal either.
Because that's what really happens. From the next takeaway from this is that Zoro goes and he's just in obviously absolute gobsmacked and grief, but he goes and sees Sensei. Sensei has Kuina's sword, and this is where Zoro comes to Sensei and basically says, like, I will fulfill both our goals, and our dreams to be the greatest swordsman. I'll carry on her legacy. Can I have her sword? And then Sensei knows from, not as the Sensei, but as obviously the father, knows that how much... like as you sort of said, the chips were against her and how hard she fought, and certainly Zoro has that same mentality and ambition and drive, and has the heart to carry out. He's the one, and gives him Kuina's sword, which is a huge moment. And like you can see, like it's that first moment I think in the whole series so far where like it really hits the emotional hearts. And like again, you're in one episode so far, and so this is where I'm like. This is why I think this arc, right? Keep in mind, I've waited 19 episodes to get here. I've waited 19 episodes to get my heartstrings sort of getting played on, and this is where I'm feeling it. And so, first episode, straight into the arc, bang, Zoro just unleashes in a massive like outburst of crying once he gets gifted Kuina's sword, and you get that flashback. And that's the first episode. So the first episode is basically just the Sensei saying something in the lines of like, I leave Kuina's spirit and dreams with you. And then like it just pans out to the dojo and he just bursts out crying, which seems to be like, again, there's an ongoing theme I'm feeling from One Piece where they're just like constantly people with these massive hearts, with these huge ambitions and dreams. And people are like showing their emotions, and like there's all those moments there where, whatever it is, you're crying, you're angry, all these things, like there's just these huge impactful...
all right to feel your feelings.
Yeah, and that's it. And like these people, these characters are massive standouts. They're the ones that like do really well. Well, most of the time, poor Kuina.
You get a little bit of like foretelling in the futures for future stuff as well, because I'm pretty sure this is the episode as well where they're messing around with the canon.
Yeah. So this is what I was going to say. So this is where it like... it ends the episode, I think, where you've basically got, it flashes forward 8 years. So 8 years and Zoro's in the dojo, and he like does that whole like, when a student is ready, I think you're ready. And he does all that, like he's got those big boulders that he once was lifting, and he just slices through them like it's like the Demon Slayer bit, where he's like, it's pretty much Demon Slayer. Maybe Demon Slayer got that, because that's the whole thing with.
Oh no, wait! There's a fight in the arc you are in real life that is a very Demon Slayer thing with Zoro, to do with the boulder.
Yeah, the boulder. All right, the slicing of the boulders. Yeah. I thought about that. So yeah, so like fast forward 8 years. So what was he? He was. Did you say 10? So he's 18 now. So he's 18. Yeah. Good coming of age. Good 18.
Yeah, I think Luffy's like 16, and those are the kind of ages.
Jeez, you forget Luffy's like that young.
Yeah, yeah.
But then again, he's got a very boyish mannerism to him. So, but yeah, all right. So 8 years on, he heads out to fulfill his dreams as well as Kuina's. Well, both their dreams, really. And then it goes on to, he comes back, he does the flashback because he's daydreaming on the island.
17,
on the ship.
16, 17, Luffy.
Yeah. Oh, wow, there you go.
Yeah.
And then you've got Luffy and you've got Usopp, and they're playing around with the cannons. They shoot one of the cannons off just as a bit of practice at one of these, like, I don't know, islands, tiny island that seems to no one sort of be on there or anything like that.
Crack shot Usopp.
Yeah. He nails it. So he becomes like, what do they call him? They call him the sniper. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, the sniper of the crew.
Yeah, very good. And then
which is very like
it's very fitting, isn't it?
No, but it also lays like a lot of fucking stuff.
I thought they did it just because he's got the slingshot, so it makes sense. Give the guy with the slingshot. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Give him a job. He's good at something. And then I think that's when it's that first episode you meet Johnny and Yusuko.
Yes.
And so I guess what happens there is that these guys, they shoot the cannon, and then all of a sudden, how do these guys come back on? Oh, they seem to come onto the ship, and then Big Bro Zoro, as they call him. No,
because it's only Johnny.
And then Johnny?
I think the episode asks where Zoro asks where
Yusuko
is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's the... Oh, no, yeah. So they end up finding him. He's on the... And so they work out that they've just shot... The island or whatever they've shot up is where these two have sort of just laid rest for a bit because Yusuko...
That's right. He's on the island.
He's on the island. Yeah.
And so Johnny's coming to get revenge.
Yeah, that's right. He's like, someone from this boat bloody shot at us. And so who are ya? And so these two, you work out like very quickly. Like they know Zoro because they're also pirate hunters. They seem to go for the low-hanging fruit pirates, so not the super OP pirates. Certainly one's not on the Grand Line, I think, so they're just traveling around the East Blue and picking up low fruit. But then, so Usopp is not well. He's pretty sick, and he's basically like, you got to help us, save us. You owe us. You just shot at us with a cannon. Come help us. And he's got scurvy, I think. Yeah, he's pretty sure he's got scurvy.
Yeah. It's heavily hinted that because, like, in the manga, like Nami literally goes like, "Go get him a lime and give him a lime." That's right. I think they just squeeze the lime in.
Yeah, and then he's like, he bounces back and he's rejoicing, and like Nami cracks his shits, going like, "How you can't get better that well." But then at the same time, then he dies. Like, no, he doesn't die, but he just faints a couple of minutes later after anyway. But then that's when they basically start talking about like they need a cook. And then that's where Johnny and that say, oh, we know where you can get a cook. There's a sea restaurant not far by called the Baratie, and that's where it all begins. And so that's the second episode. So what do you think? The first episode was great. I liked the first episode.
Yes, because you get that. Yeah, we get the setup for the arc, which is like, there's a boat with all the chefs on it, and then we also finally get to see like the backstory of Zoro the hunter. The pirate hunter, and why is the samurai in the pirate world?
Yeah. All right. So then they head off on the voyage to the Baratie, and they finally reach the Baratie, but it pans out to another introduction to another big character, which I feel from your comments that we're going to see this character again in the future. Lieutenant Iron Fist Full body.
What is it?
Iron Fist full body.
Double Iron Fist full body.
All
But
right.
just call him full body.
Yeah, okay.
That's what everyone calls
We'll go full body because it's going to be too hard
Yeah.
otherwise. So it goes with full body. Full body is one of these head Marines, a lieutenant Marine, and he's heading over to the Baratie.
Yeah, he's an officer.
Yeah, he's
Marine
an
officer.
So he's basically taking one of his lady friends, and he says, "I've got a restaurant. We'll take you there." So he takes her there, and I think Luffy's ship and his ship sort of arrive at the same time.
Pass each other. Yeah.
Okay. And this is where it's going like, "Oh, there's a Marine. Oh, there's a pirate. Who are you? What are you about?" And then they've fired at Luffy, and I think this is where it all goes down because Luffy does his whole rubber gum slingshot bit. Misfires, I don't know, I think he slips or something like that. Anyway, the cannonball ricochets and hits and does damage to the Baratie on the roof.
Yeah.
And that's when you get your first appearance of the head chef, which you find out is Redfoot Zeph. And this is the start of Luffy having that oh shit moment and going in there and them saying like, it's the head chef basically just saying like, all right, you've injured me. You've broken down the Baratie. The roof's all fallen in. You got to pay us the money. And Luffy, as he does many a times, basically says, I don't want you to give me any slack, but I'm flat broke, which seems to be a common theme. Does he have any money? Like, he seems to run this storyline all the way through where he has no money. See, apparently Nami has money. Zoro keeps borrowing money off Nami. And Nami charges him extreme levels of interest rates. And
when they finally do get money, like the crew, like Nami holds it, and then she gives them allowances and stuff.
Oh, okay, far out. Well, it just seems like Luffy's got no money. Usopp's got plenty of money. He's happy to spend, which you sort of get that later on when he starts shopping for stuff. But yeah, like poor old Luffy doesn't get any money.
I think that's just when the crew has money.
Oh, okay. Which I thought they had money because they didn't they just take Syrup Village when they took like the guys' money?
No, well they had the money from Buggy. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
Buggy's
right.
money.
And then it was in the ship during Syrup, and that's when the cat pirates find their ship and go, "Oh, look at all the money!" And then like they're like, "Oh," and that's when Usopp does the lie of like, "You can take that if you leave my island," and they're like, "We'll just take it and take the island."
Yep. Yeah. So he's able to negotiate instead of doing a year. He goes, "I'll give you 1 week of work as a chore boy." And he's like, you got to be dreaming. And he's like, all right, 2 weeks. That's my best offer. He's like, get out of here. And they whacks him in the head. And then he's like, no, 3 weeks. Give me 3 weeks and I'll work for you. And that's all I can do because I got to get to the Grand Line. And which I don't even think he accepts. He basically just is like, I don't know. Something happens there where he just doesn't accept. So it's the introduction of the head chef, which is important. And then you've got Sanji. And so it's the introduction of Sanji once the full body lieutenant arrives on Baratie and sits down at the table. And then there's this whole scene of like, it's a very high-end restaurant, which is pretty interesting. So high-end restaurant out in the middle of the sea. We're still in the East Blue. And so he comes aboard. He's pretty much VIP. Everyone's sort of talking about him. He's got his lady friend showing her a good time. And then you got Sanji coming over and giving the wine to him. And then there's that conversation about like, I think he shows him up straight away about the wine. Like the full body is all about, oh, this wine tastes, it smells like this, tastes like this. Oh, it's got to be this. And Sanji's like, not even close, you dickhead. It's this type of wine. And then it makes him look like an absolute fool. Like you see all like the people in the Baratie that's there are sort of like having a chuckle. His lady friend's like, oh my God, like what a bit of a loser. And then like the full body's like feeling really embarrassed, has that conversation to himself, monologuing about like, I told this waiter that I'd come at this time and have this wine and whatnot. And I think that's the initial, like then the full body gets angry, starts like what does he do? He finds like a cockroach or something like that, a bug, puts it in the soup, and then he's like, oh waiter, what sort of establishment is this? Blah blah blah. And then Sanji's like, not having a bar of it.
No.
And then sort of that whole disrespect.
You insult the Baratie, you insult my father.
Yeah. So you see, and then so you're starting to get a bit of a vibe about Sanji. Sanji doesn't take any shit. And
it doesn't care that it's the Navy. Like, up until this point, apart from, like, Luffy and maybe, like, other evil characters, nobody really, like, disobeys the Navy, even if they're doing horrible things. It's all just like, we are, yes, you are our leaders. Yes, sir. 3 bags full.
Yeah. But I think this is the first bit, because over these next episodes, there's layers here with Sanji where he acts in a certain way and he does things for certain reasons that you're like, fuck, what's going on with this bloke? Like, what's his MO sort of thing? Because like he does in that moment when he's beating up this lieutenant, he says this moment where he says, can your money truly satisfy your hunger? And it's that conversation of like, you're getting that moment there where it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's all about that respect to food, respect to those that are preparing that for food for you. And so you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. And you soon after that, find out like all of the cooks within the Baratie are sort of like either, I don't know if they're pirates. So I think some are pirates, some are just like
some are current pirates, or
rascallions.
some are ex-pirates, or like, the scum of, like, the dregs of society in a sense.
Yep. And then what do you got? Then you got the introduction of Jean. Mm-hmm. So I like Jean. Jean's very, very good. So yeah, I like Jean. I don't know. I reckon I'm going like let's have a chat about Jean, because I think he's gonna come back. So my part is you've got this one character, Jean. So Jean, how does he arrive he just basically arrives on the boat, but he comes
on a little like dinghy or something like that, like a ruined dinghy.
So in comes Jean, this piratey looking dude that is absolutely starving, but he comes in with force. He's got his pistol. He basically is coming at is it Sanji or one of the chefs anyway, just saying like, just bring me food. I don't care what it is, just bring me food. The cooks aren't having any bar of it. They basically just say, do you have money? He says, I don't have money, just give me food. Here's a pistol to the head, give me all the food. And they boot him out. And they just boot him out. And then you soon find out that he is absolutely starving and that Sanji finds him outside and knows that how bad he is starving and gives him food. And I think that's the moment there where you soon find out that I think I think it is Sanji that says it. He says like, if anyone's hungry, they're a customer. And I think that's what he may say to him.
Yep.
And it's the mindset of just going like, you soon find out like Jean is starving, hasn't been eating in days, and he's outside and he's pretty much close to death. Sanji feeds him, and Jean first basically refuses the food and saying like, I don't want your food, I don't want your pity sort of thing. And he's like, well, what's the point of having pride when you can eat today and really chase, true pride? And it sort of hits a chord with him, and he eats it. And then Jean breaks down. Like I'm so sorry. While he's just smashing this food. Like he's like, I thought I was going to die. I really like your kindness. It is so appreciative, which is a really cool scene. I like that. So it's slowly building this character with Sanji where he could get in trouble with feeding this pirate. He has no obligation to feed him, but he does feed Jean. And then it slowly shows that relationship with Sanji and Redfoot, Zeph as well. So like they seem to have in the early stage there, and even through it, they're like really, you could almost think that they sort of hate each other. They just keep ripping into each other. Like Sanji's calling the old man geezer. The head chef's calling him like a brat all the way through. They rip at each other. The head chef's like constantly just like beating him up anyway. And then so I think that episode basically is just the pure focus on Jean and trying to build that relationship or that fleshing out the character.
And it nearly even becomes like a contrast to like Full Body as well, because like Full Body technically was the law, and like the Baratie's not a evil vessel or like a pirate vessel, apart from like the crew itself. But that's not really thing. And a member of the law, but coming in and disrespecting it gets treated worse than like a person that came in, held everybody by gunpoint, but like really was hungry and then respected the food once he was given. Like he was like, thank you and all that once he ate it and like ate every bit. And that's like a big thing in Japanese culture of like, finishing your whole meal, leaving nothing on the plate and all that. So
yeah, there's definitely an emphasis on like having respect for the food for this whole thing. And then obviously it brings up to the big reason why that is.
It's a two-parter because technically you're only getting half of the story of why Sanji knows food.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And way down the 900 episode line, you'll get the other half of the story of why Sanji respects food so much.
I'm keen for that, especially after watching this arc. This so much.
It will also tie back to this arc as well.
And so after he feeds Jean, and Jean basically buggers off. So he eats, he's very grateful, he's appreciative, and then he leaves again on his little ship. No one's the wiser, and there is that symbolic moment where Jean sort of basically says, I'm so sorry, I don't want to get you in trouble. And Sanji throws his plate and his glass in the water and says, well, if no one will know, and no one's to find out, so no one gets in trouble. And
but there's always somebody watching.
There's always somebody watching. There's two people I think watching. Luffy's watching, and so it's always the same thing with Luffy. So Luffy's watching this, and he knows straight away, like it's that moment there where he's made his decision. He's hard and firm. That's our cook.
Yep.
And it's always the same thing. Good people doing good things and having pure hearts. And I think that's what attracts.
But like doing things without, like, because he knows nobody can, Luffy knows that Sanji didn't do it because like Luffy's watching or anything like that. To Luffy thing, he probably doesn't. He knows that Sanji he did it out, not even in the restaurant. He did it off to the side. It wasn't
wasn't for anyone. Wasn't on
for thanks and all that. It was straight up hero actions, as in like you did this for no kind of I can't remember the word. Not retribution, but the opposite of retribution. Like. There's thanks.
There's no return. There's no anything like that. He's not doing it for anyone else except for himself. The next episode is the introduction of Don Krieg. So Don Krieg comes through. So Don Krieg, I think they paint him out to basically be this. They see his ship come through. So I guess Jean's gone. And then it's almost like, is it pretty much straight away? Oh, and then it has this bit of a back and forth where with Jean gone, then Luffy's sort of the chore boy and he's working with the chefs and you get that bit of a view there.
Luffy becomes the like vessel for the viewer to kind of like know the ins and outs and little minor stories and the relationship bonds and how everything works on this ship. Like this is your like, I'm the cockroach or the fly on the wall getting to watch how everything, we get to go with Luffy as the vessel to kind of teach us the story of what the Baratie is and how everyone acts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel like the Baratie has those two characters. I'm trying to remember what their names are, but you have those two.
The one that sort of looks like Popeye?
Yeah, he's got the massive Popeye arms. That's right. And like those characters are great. And that character in particular is really, really cool. I think his name, Cone Crane. I forget what his name is, but he's so good.
But that's the point of like, you don't even have to know their names because like they're just special. And like now you're seeing like even background characters are heartfelt and thought out. And like, you don't need to, all you need to remember from this story is like Sanji and Redfoot. Like that's all you need to remember. Yeah. But when you're watching it or rewatching it, you're like, oh yeah, I get to live all these little like D character stories as well. And that's where people like, how have you gone back and rewatched it in 1,000 episode series? It's like for these little characters in here that do get lost in the 1,000 episodes, but when you're watching it at the time, are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this next character is one that is going to be hanging around. I think he's going to have a comeback after this arc as well. Is my gut feeling, the way he sort of leaves. So then you've got...
Jin?
Pardon? Don Krieg.
Krieg.
No. Oh, no, because I'll give you a bit of a theory. Like, I'll give you my theory on it because it sort of leaves, I'm thinking... I think it's going to go one way. But so then you got the introduction of Don Krieg. So Don Krieg is basically a pirate and he's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, known in the East Blue. And so that's the vibe that you feel. And we're not even at Arlong Park yet, and he's in the East Blue. Yeah. But you got Don Krieg. So Don Krieg has this legacy where he's like really fucking dodgy. Like he goes from ship to ship. He sort of like puts up the Navy flags to like lure Navy in. Then he takes over their ships and he does the whole white flag when he's out there. Like, and then they'll come close and then he'll destroy them.
He does some straight up
He's just some
stereotypical pirate
Yeah,
stuff.
he is
Like
quite-
what like we think of evil pirates. Of
Yeah.
like
He's
the
not
most
good.
backstabby of evilness.
And I think it's like, again, you're painting the picture where you got all these different pirates. Some of them are like comedic, like you got Buggy. You've got some of them that are just outright like ridiculously mean, and they're not going to change. And I think he's one of these guys. Like his heart is pure evil.
He doesn't have to be a deep character. He's just a bad guy.
Yeah. So there's this introduction. So his ship comes pretty close to the Baratie, and then you've got him coming out with Jean. And so Jean's sort of like carrying him into the Baratie, and he's basically in the same boat as Jean was. So he is absolutely starving. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone's sort of like gobsmacked to be like, oh my God, it's him. He's going to sort of take over the ship and all the rest of it. But they're surprised to find him extremely weak, starving, and they sort of have the competitive edge. So it's that moment there where like they've shown kindness to Jean, or Sanji has anyway. And
It's come back to bite them.
yeah, and so it's almost like it has come back to bite them. You fed one ant, or no, the herd's coming, sort of thing. And so you've got so they've all sort of like the crew, in the sense of the Baratie chefs, have sort of had that decision where they're like, nah, get out of here. We're not feeding you. We know who you are. We know all the bad stuff that you've done. Call the Marines. Bloody the full body bloke was still there, pretty sure. Or did he bail? Maybe he bailed, because he was sort of like, after he got beaten up by Sanji, he probably bailed.
I think he'd be like, even I can't remember if he was, but even if he was, like, I'm pretty
He
sure
wouldn't have done
he'd be
anything
too
anyway.
scared. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Don Krieg, like there was a reason Don Krieg was as big as he was.
Yeah.
And all that. Like none of the pirates in the East Blue could deal with him.
Yeah.
Because you do find out a bit later, like he has a whole like armada. It's not just a one boat kind of thing.
No, so he has
Which
like they talk about that, how he has a fleets. He has fleets.
Yeah, which does set up like a few of the like late, end game kind of pirate crews where like it's not just a pirate crew, there's like a whole fleet under them and all those kind of things.
Yeah. So he comes in and he's begging for forgiveness. He promises that he won't do anything if he just please feeds him, asks for the scraps, asks for the leftovers, asks for anything that they can spare for him to basically save his life. I can't remember if Jean is sort of saying like, Jean's sort of saying like, Don Krieg, don't beg, you're above this, you're better than this sort of thing. Even after the kindness that they showed to Jean, and so Sanji just goes into that autopilot mode. He sees someone that is in need for food, and then it comes again to
Do you think it's a bit deeper than that? Like Jean knows what will happen if he gets fed, and like he's doing like don't get fed. Oh, don't lower yourself here. Like, because you see his actions later.
Yeah,
so,
you do. Yeah. And so I think
so maybe this was like, he knows this is the easiest way to avert this scenario without like alerting anyone to what he's doing, as in like Don Krieg or the chefs.
Yeah. Okay, so if we talk about this, so Sanji ends up feeding him and has the whole like, and to all of the chefs sort of like disgust. They're like, you're going to regret this. This is going to be the worst decision you ever made.
Well, you also learn more in the Grand Line, because like that's why they're in the state they are now.
That's right. So
and
I
it
think
kind of sets up the like toughness and like starts giving you power levels.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Without having power levels.
Yes, because I don't know when they talk about this, but that's the reason why. That's the reason why Jean is so beaten up and he's starving and hungry. That's the reason why Don Krieg is the way he is as well, as in starving, hungry. And their ship, when they look at it, that's parked right next door to them, moored, I should say, is battered to shit. Yeah. And so, like, even, I don't remember who makes the comment, but someone makes the comment to say, like, the way the ship is, that's not done by any other human or ship. That's done by something far.
Line.
Yeah, the Grand Line. That's right. So they end up feeding Don Krieg, and so again the chefs are not happy about that at all, but Sanji goes into that whole like, if anyone's hungry, it's like his whole motto, if anyone's hungry, they're a customer. And he's the only one, well, there's two people that only believe in that, but he's the only one, as we know of, right there and then, and everyone else just thinks like they're all about the money sort of things. So they feed him, he feels much better in about 12 seconds, happy days, and then he basically turns. And then he does what everyone sort of thought they would do, and he basically just takes over. And he basically says, I'm taking this ship. My ship's busted up. Also, I've got about 100 people on board my ship. They're all dying of the same thing. They want food, they want drink. I'm taking your ship, and I want you all to get back in the kitchen and feed them. And so everyone's like, bloody Sanji, you fed him. We told you not to. Now we're stuck. We're going to lose the Baratie, and we're going to have to feed all these people. And Gene's basically pissed. Like, he's like, Don Krieg, you told me, you promised me that you wouldn't do this, you son of a bitch. And now you're going to go do it. And full disclosure too, can I just say, I was like, when I was watching this the first time, I was watching a lot of this with the kids, and I thought this was the first arc where I'm like, holy shit, they swear a lot. Like, they say bastard a lot. They say, and even like when you read in the Japanese, the subtitles, like, they say much worse, but they're like, you bastard, you arsehole. I don't know the best at arsehole, but they said the bastard. They said a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, shit, they're bloody swearing a lot in this arc. Anyway, that's just an observation, because I was like, all right,
this
kids,
is kind of when you
we can't
like,
watch this. You guys, this is gonna. This that's when it turned from like Sunday viewing in the afternoon to nighttime.
Daddy,
go to bed, nighttime. We're gonna watch some pirates. Anyway, so they feed him. He betrays him. Gene's pissed. And then you find up, like, this is where he sort of armors up. This is where he armors up? This is where you see, like, Don Krieg's armor sort of pop out?
Not yet, I don't think. It's when the fighting, like, real starts happening.
Okay.
Or maybe they hint at it here. Yeah. Where they're just like...
I feel like when he starts, like, flexing, like, when he's like, nah, you guys, I didn't give you an order. Like, I'm not asking, I'm telling you, you're going to feed everyone. Which Sanji ends up going out there and he feeds them. He gives the whole 100 of them. But I do like the fact that when he does feed them, like, he literally gives them, like, this big, I don't know, brown bag of food. Brown, like, what is it? Bags, sack. It's a sack. Everyone's got a sack on there. He feeds them and he's like, oh, what are you doing, Sanji, again? You fucking, I hate you. And then he's like, no. Now I can take him on. Now I can beat him up with a clean conscience. So, and then I think it goes into the next episode. So where are we at now? So they've fed Gene, and then he's sort of showed appreciation and buggered off. They've fed Don Krieg, and it's backfired on them. And now, Sanji fed Don Krieg pretty openly, as opposed to like sneakily.
This is where you get the reveal of that Zeph is the red leg as well.
Yes,
because the chefs all ask, like, they ask Zeph, like, why are you going along with Sanji's kind of stuff?
Yep. And this is where you got the flashback, isn't it?
No. That's when he's fighting Pearl.
Ah, okay. All right.
When Jin like grabs Zeph and holds him captive, and then that's why, like, he just lets Pearl, like, beat down on him.
Ah, that's right. Okay, all right. So we'll get to that part.
But we get the big one where they then reveal what on the Grand Line attacked them, and then that's when Jin is like, oh, we ran into Mihawk.
Yes.
And Mihawk decimated our whole fleet by himself.
And just before we get there, they do have the conversation where, like, it's around about this time where you actually get the flashback, because Don Krieg recognizes the chef, and the chef being the Redfoot Zeph. And this is where the chef, like, this is where his pirate crew is sort of like, oh, you're the Foot Zeph, and referred to, like, how he got his name, saying, like, he referred to his shoes, which were always covered in blood. And he talks about, like, how he was a pirate captain, but he also was his crew's cook.
Yeah.
And like how he never used his hands because he was a cook, a chef, and he would always fight with his feet. And then he was obviously had the strongest legs in his feet. So that was his key. And that's important because that was like his key, I guess, unique style of why he was like, his strength and everything was like, I guess his kicking abilities, I guess. Yeah, and then then it talks about, like, is this the introduction of a Hawkeye?
Yes. So two big things. This is like the two major things that happen are all of a sudden they
talk about the Grand Line.
Flashes to Nami, and she's staring at a poster that we don't know what it is, and all of a sudden she bails
dropped by the other two pirate hunters, which is Zoro's friends. Yep.
And she bails with the Going Merry.
That's right, she bails. And that's about halfway, isn't it? Like, she sort of just tricks them, like, she's got this...
And then they get into the little, like, the side boat that they had, and that's what the rest of the crew are on, and that's what they arrive at Baratie in.
That's right. And so this is the moment there where you were like, Nami's pretty cool. Like, she starts off like...
she's finally getting along with the crew, and then next minute, she's back to, at Arc 1 Nami of like, nah, peace out, suckers.
That's it. And that's why this is, again, like this, when I first watched this, I'm like, fuck, like we're back to her. So she is a baddie. Like she's got, doing that until the very end, which we'll go on to that. This is that one scene there you think, oh no, she might be pretty good. So she's gone, saw ya. And then you've got the other two. And so those two, which are Zoro's friends, have come to the Baratie. And then so they basically said, Nami's gone. She's taken off with the ship. And then Zoro's like, good riddance sort of thing. Like she was a bit of a pain in the bum. And then Luffy sort of backs her and says, no, she's our navigator. That's the only navigator that we'll have. You got to go after her. And so I think that's when like he was going to send Zoro and Usopp out there. But then that's when Jean talks about like the Grand Line and how they've just come back from the Grand Line. Yeah. And then how they went out there with like, I don't know, 5,000. Is it 5,000? 5,000 seems to be familiar. They talk about 5,000 people. They went out there with 5,000 people and they like lost them, lost pretty much all of them. And they're just like, they went out there and they got cut up by something. And then you work out very quickly that it's this one individual named Hawkeye Melee. But then
it's Drackle Mihawk, and his nickname is Hawkeye.
And then does he come like, and all of a sudden does he show up? So he like just start talking to him.
I think it's at the end of an episode. It like flicks to like this mysterious figure looking real creepy on a tiny little boat.
Tiny little boat with these green candles. Yeah. Real dark and ominous. Yeah. Nah, it's cool.
And then the next episode is like the huge slice through the ship.
Yes. Yeah, and that's right. So then this is when he comes through and he just slices through the already beat up ship and he just slices it in half. And this is when everyone sort of looks at it. And so you've got like the pirates as in Don Krieg's pirates sort of going, oh, it's him. Like he's followed us from the Grand Line. And they knew who he was pretty much straight away. But you also then you have like the
you as viewers are like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But then you had Zoro. So Zoro's sort of saying, I know him and I know he's the guy that I've been chasing.
He is the pinnacle.
Yeah. And he's like it's also really cool because he says things like, it's too early. It's too early in my story that I've met with him. So like he's still not there yet, but he knows like it's now or never.
Like he gets the flashbacks and he's like, I might die falling downstairs tomorrow. Yeah. I have to challenge him now.
And he has this whole like they emphasize on like the heart palpitations, which is the first time you actually see Zoro actually scared with this one guy, and he's carrying this. So like he's in this tiny boat, which looks like a coffin, by the way. I don't know. And he's carrying this ginormous black sword on his back. So you don't know how he's doing that. But anyway, so he basically, this is where Zoro actually stands up to fight Hawkeye. And this is a really cool scene. And I get this. Like, this is one of those other ones where it like cements the storytelling. Like early on in the piece where he basically declares to, Zoro declares to, as a bit of an introduction to Hawkeye, just to say, I'm Zoro, I'm going to be the greatest swordsman, I challenge you. And
he has his flashes of Luffy. Like, this is where you finally see him be very similar to Luffy, as in, like, committed to my dream.
Yeah.
I will be the world's greatest swordsman.
Yeah. And it's cool that you've got Hawkeye, like, he's obviously come from OP mode from the Grand Line. He doesn't have no idea who Zoro is. He's just another person. Wants to challenge me.
To find out who's the only other person that can kind of challenge him with sword fighting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I think from the very start, like even Redfoot basically says that's him. Like, even when Jin and Don Krieg were sort of describing like who cut up the boats and whatnot, they were like, I don't know who it is, except for like you were talking about like those evil eyes and cut up your boat. So it can only be this one person. And then when he shows up, he's like, that's him. That's the greatest swordsman in the world.
Yeah.
And the Redfoot is they make this emphasis, and it's true that he has traveled through the Grand Line and he's made a logbook of all his adventures, and he's been able to bypass and navigate through like all devil fruit people, all powers and so on, and he's returned. And I think that's the one other thing that Don Krieg like really wants. He wants that logbook because he basically he goes in there saying from
he
these
wants
episodes,
the cheat codes for the Grand
pretty
Line.
much, yeah. He said, I went in with the people. I went in like with the, you know, I was armed, ready to go. I just didn't have the information. And then as you get like, now that I sort of look at it going into the Alabasta where I'm at now, you realize how important information is to the Grand Line, because there's a whole bunch of shit that you're like, oh, what the heck? So that's cool. So that shows, again, you're talking about how dangerous the Grand Line is. You're talking about how information is so crucial. And they have this...
building the groundworks for his world.
And
Oda is so good at it.
And they do have that information, like all the crew are like, oh, wow, he's like got a devil fruit. Like they're supposed to be extremely rare. And they make this emphasis, like, yes, here in East Blue, they are rare. But when you're in the Grand Line... they're a dime a dozen.
Everywhere.
There's so many of them.
Every man and his dog's got a
everyone's got a
bloody
power.
devil fruit. And they do, haven't they? As a
100%.
person that's now into the Grand Line,
So I think this is where, like, again, this is where this is where it marries really well with this arc starting with Zoro as a young kid and talking about, like, him, where he was, you know, like, I guess, you know, that whole meme from the bottom to now, here we are now, like, just showing, like, where he was and how he, you know, dedicated his, that's where he, like, you know, came into the fact of like, this is my goals, this is my ambition, this is what I want to do, this is my life dream, and I'm planting that flag. And then now he's got this opportunity to I guess reach it, to if he goes into this 1-to-1 with Melee, was it Melee? Yeah, Hawkeye. Yeah, he could potentially reach his goals. He could do this now. It's now he can now achieve it. Everything that he's worked so hard to do all these years, he can achieve it. And he has.
How'd that go for him?
Fucking, he got wrecked. But it's
a good fight though.
It's a great fight.
You don't feel like ripped off of how easily he gets beaten because of how Drackle does the fight and how he talks to him about, and then how he even like, you know, you're gonna die, like just back away, and Zoro does that, like it's a dishonor for a swordsman to have a slash on his back. That means he turned his back to an enemy. So slash me on the front. I like even the fact that straight away, you know, they go in there and they're like, let's battle. And he's like, all right, well, you're a dime a dozen, so let's go. And he doesn't go the big sword. He starts off with the tiniest. Oh, that hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. And I still feel it 20 years later of how I was like, you disrespected my boy?
It's a massive disrespect. But at the same time, it's like this little pocket knife that he pulls out. It's like connected to his necklace, and he's just got this cross necklace that he pulls this little tiny little shiv dagger out, and he's like, he just goes at him with this. He blocks everything.
Instantly, and then you're like, I take back the dishonor. Like, no, you were being...
You're the real deal. Yeah. And even Zoro's like in his mind's going like, does that one move that always wins sort of thing. And he's like, how
nobody's ever been able to.
And he does it with the ease sort of thing. And he goes, how is our powers this or level this far apart?
I knew I was nowhere near it, but I didn't realize it was this far. Yeah. And us as the viewers kind of got it as well, because we get the hints of, we're like, oh, the Grand Line, what? Like, how could it be that much? And then, here's just a guy from the Grand Line, and slashed the boat in half, and then stopped our sword boy. That up until now, as we laughed about it, the meme of like Zoro's always injured, so you never got to see Zoro at full pace.
Yeah,
this is fully healed, nothing holding him back. Zoro. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
and you are
like...
And he gets, like, unfortunately, after this, he gets wrecked, and he's wrecked for a little while. And he carries around this wreckness for ages, actually.
Yeah.
So
we'll talk about that in the next episode.
So, anyway, so he gets, after a bit of back and forth, he ends up getting stabbed in the heart by this tiny knife, and he doesn't step back, and he has that bit of that speech to say, like, you know, I'm not stepping back. Like, I'd rather die by this sword, you know, knowing that I've died.
It would be a dishonor to my dead friend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
back down right now.
And that's where, like, Hawkeye really stands up and takes notice. Again, that's that common thing.
You haven't got the skills yet, but you've got the drive, and that's what he sees in him.
And then he does that whole like goes in for the end slash as in like to take the life. And then I think he's behind him. And like, as you sort of said, like he turns around and he says, no, if you're going to finish this, you'll do it from the front. And then he does that, takes out that ginormous sword of his, does a huge full body slash straight across the chest. Yeah. And then you just see him fly into the water. And then
that scar is so sick, even to this date in the manga. Like when Zoro gets like, you know, his serious mode, and he takes his shirt off and he puts his bandana on, and these days in the manga, and he still has that huge scar and stitched lines across his chest, and you're like, I know that moment.
That's it.
I know that moment.
And it
flashes back to this scene always of like, I will never lose again, Luffy.
That's it.
This is what you deserve as the Pirate King.
This is where this scene hits so hard is the fact that like
I'm glassing up saying it.
You see the difference in power levels, and you see that respect that two swordsmen have for each other, even at those different levels. You have the greatest swordman in the world versus someone who wants to achieve the same level but is so far apart. Gets served, but in that moment, in that battle, they almost see each other, and especially Hawkeye seeing that same ambition that you see that theme all the way through. Cuts him a deep one. Luffy loses his marbles, almost turns like Super Saiyan levels, which then, like, again, draws out that emotion and like how connected these two are in such a short period of time. Like Luffy,
like a couple of weeks.
That's it. Like Luffy will die for any one of his crew members without hesitation, and it shows in that scene. But then, you know, I think it is Hawkeye that sort of says to him, you know, jump in, save your friend. He's not dead. And then he has that moment there, like where they sort of pull him out. Forget who pulls him out.
I think it's one of his mates. It's Johnny or whatever.
Yeah. So they pull him out, and he's like, he's wrecked, but he's like, oh, he's conscious, you know, he's breathing, sort of thing. And then Zoro sort of has that big speech that is like well recognized by like anyone that sort of watches the series in this moment. Sort of just has that moment where he just says like, he apologizes and he's crying to Luffy, just saying that like, I know
another man crying.
Yeah, it's the thing.
Feel your feels.
And then he's basically just says like, I'm so sorry, I've let you down. I will never, ever, I promise and I vow, I will never lose again. You deserve, for the person that is striving to be the Pirate King, you deserve nothing but the best, and to have the greatest swordman by your side on this journey. Yep. And it's that moment where like you just see, like that's just the emotionals that you feel there. And then you see
Zoro, the first mate of the pirate, of the Straw Hat Pirates, and straight up.
And you can just by that moment that you know it's going to be the ride or die. You know those two are going to be in it for the long haul. They're going to do anything for each other. But it's such a great point to realize, like, just that reminder for Zoro, like how far he has to go. He doesn't have Kuina there anymore. He must think he's at the top.
And now he's got the two things driving him: the for Luffy and for Kuina.
Yeah,
of like the greatest swordsman. So like, if it wasn't hammered in before, now it is as well. Like, I haven't got this person to swear to anymore, so I'm also now swearing to you, Luffy.
Oh, it's
as
so
a living
good.
person to hold it up. All right. But we finished Zoro. We finished one wing of the Pirate King. Let's go to the other wing of the Pirate King.
All right. Before we do that,
Pirate King.
I've got a bit of a surprise. A little bit of a word from our sponsor. I'm joking, you mate. We have no sponsor. No one loves us.
I was like, how have you got a sponsor already?
We haven't even published an episode. No. But if anyone wants to be a sponsor, welcome aboard. But anyway, where are we up to?
Join the Pirate Crew.
Join the Pirate Crew. Always love you.
We're back. We're back. Because just like these scenes happened is like nearly an intermission for the Baratie Arc, because like it happens in the middle, and it nearly could happen separately away from the Baratie Arc in a sense. And still be fine. But then we get back to Don Krieg's like, all right, halftime's over. Let's get back.
Pretty much. It feels like it's halftime now. It's got to be halftime in the arc. It's a massive arc. It's 12. Actually, it's 12 episodes, and like we've been talking for like over an hour now. How are we going to get through this next? Like when we get to Alabasta.
Well, that's what I said. We're going to cut Alabasta up into a few things.
All right,
but also, like, in the next couple of episodes, it's more a lot of fighting and all that.
Yes.
we do get a bit of a very heartfelt backstory. I'll let you kind of roll into this.
Well, I had it next, then, like the introduction of Pearl. So
Okay,
yeah. So Pearl jumps on. Like,
actually, that's an important part.
I like how these like little sidekick or like.
They're so
like
good, aren't they? Even if they don't have devil fruit.
They're just like, they've got these crazy powers. Who knows? Like, there's no backstories to how they got these powers. They seem to just walk on into the scene like it was meant to be. Like, even the Meow Brothers or anything like that, it was sort of just like, oh, yeah, and then on comes, Joe Bloggs. And so here comes Pearl. Pearl comes out of nowhere. You haven't seen him. I don't know where he's been. But he just, like, jumps onto the Baratie and he's like, oh, I'm Pearl. And he's this dude, like, I could have sort of created him or drew him out. He's just a guy with a bunch of shields on his front, on his arms, on his legs, with a pearl in the middle of these shields. And they're like a Viking shield, like the round shield sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he's got some sort of pearl on his head. So he's just this weird cat-looking dude. And he's like, oh, I'm Pearl, the invincible shield. And apparently he must be pretty powerful because, like, all the other sort of crew are like, oh, here comes Shield, don't piss him off. And I'm trying to remember, like, he does this whole speech about, like, oh, no one's been able to sort of hurt me. I've been into, like, 1,000 fights and I've never lost or, I've never been hurt or whatever like that.
Yeah.
And I forget what it is. Like, Luffy tries to go at Don Krieg. Don Krieg fires back. Luffy sort of flies in the air, whacks this Pearl in the back of the head as he's falling sort of thing. And then he gets, like, a blood nose or something. And everyone's like, oh, no, he's going to get pissed. And then this Pearl guy just catches on fire. Like, okay, what? So, like, everyone's like, oh, when he gets angry, he turns into fire or he starts firing up.
Yeah, he has fire on him.
What's the go? Like, how does he get? There's nothing makes sense. But also, nothing makes sense.
It must be an inspiration for a power down the line for Sanji. That's all I'm going to say.
A power for who? Sanji.
For Sanji down the line.
Right.
And it's only in a video that I watched, like, recently that I was like, oh, yeah. Because, like, up until very recently, we didn't have an real explanation for one of Sanji's kind of things that he does.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh yeah, it's very similar to Pearl's, like, just catching on fire for no reason.
So there's got to be. So my mindset is like it's a bit random, only because they don't really tell you about it. They don't really like. It's a crazy looking dude in an outfit with a bunch of shields that can turn to fire when he gets pissed off. But they give you no context. Somehow there's this middle ground where you've got like average people like Usopp, and then you've got people that train really hard like Zoro, and then you've got people with actual powers that I don't know how they get these powers, but there obviously must be a backstory there. And then you got like people that have got the devil fruits, and some of them are pretty basic, some of them are OP. Anyway, so there's Pearl. Pearl's kicking ass. And then it goes into the next episode, which basically has...
Sanji starts fighting Pearl.
Okay, all right, yeah. And so Sanji starts fighting
and starts
Pearl.
to get the upper hand.
Yep, and that's right. And then so what happens there is that Jean sort of steps in. And Jean basically has the old geezer or Redfoot as hostage. So somehow he got Redfoot down on the ground and he's got a pistol to Redfoot's head. And he's basically like, just give us everything, give us the Baratie, and we'll leave. And this is where Sanji's basically saying like, look, point the gun at me, and then he just sort of gives up to a level of degree, and Pearl just starts beating the shit out of him. And then like Luffy sort of like, why are you not? Why are you not blocking? Why are you just letting him take it and hit him? And this is where Sanji starts coming out, just going like, I've cost this geezer too much. Like, I can't lose him. The Baratie is his dream. He's lost everything else. I've taken everything from him. I can't lose him, and I can't let him lose his greatest treasure, which is the Baratie. And so then it does the flashback, doesn't it?
Yes. Now
Yes.
Sanji starts thinking to when he was younger as a serving cook in training on a passenger cruise liner kind of thing.
That's it. So he's always been sort of within that chef's kitchen, so to speak. He was just the chore boy back in the day.
And you'll find out why later, later down the track.
Well,
also like I'll set the scene though, because this is something that's very important.
Okay.
He's talking to the other chefs about the All Blue.
Yes.
And that's the big important thing, because that ties very much into what Sanji is about. Of this place somewhere in the world where all the different oceans of the world flow through. So all of the seafood that is available in the world can be found in this one spot. So like for a chef, it's like, you know, it's heaven because like you can cook anything you'd desire and you could make anything you desire. And it's this mythical place that he'd love to finish the all blue because there's like East Blue, West Blue,
Yeah, so
Grand Line.
that's where all the oceans sort of meet, where you've got all this fish,
Yeah.
all these types of fish, north, south, east, west.
I think it's at the end of the Grand Line because
think it
we see all the sort of oceans flow into the start of the Grand Line in the future of when they go over, you know, the mountain.
Yeah.
That's where all the ocean. So
Why wouldn't it be
obviously
there? Why wouldn't it be right there?
I don't know.
That doesn't make sense to me. To me,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm honestly dropping a lure right there.
I think it's probably because
Too
of
easy.
how
It's too easy.
like we don't want to spoil too much for future viewing, but like you saw
I don't know
how
what's going
rough
on.
that journey is over the mountain.
Yeah,
in
it's
a
hard,
sense.
and it seems to be like
so-
you don't have any
So
control.
maybe
to sort
fish
of
don't make it
iron.
over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's at the Grand. I think it's where the One Piece is. Like, Luffy's gonna find the One Piece, and then Sanji's gonna be like, "Oh, here's the All Blue."
They're all just gonna. It's just gonna be this one island where it's just like, oh, there's the all blue, and there's the One Piece, and he's the greatest swordsman, and Nami's something.
No,
else.
I think the greatest swordsman thing's gonna happen real soon in the current,
Okay.
like anime and arc, because I think he is about the level of Mihawk at the moment.
Holy shit!
After the most recent fight Zoro just did,
Okay.
everyone in the community's like, he's fucking ready. This is it. It's time to go for the title.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. All right. So let's park it
We've
there.
gone
Let's
way
park-
too far. Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
okay.
sorry.
So that is a flashback. So it does one of these. Right. So anyway, there's plenty of flashbacks here. So he goes back and does a flashback, and he's a young boy. He's on another boat, and he's in the kitchen. And again, he's talking to the other chefs about the all blue. And all the chefs are like, mate, there's no such thing about it. Like, you're dreaming. Like, it's always just a myth, a fantasy, a fugazi. And so anyway, they find out, like, all of a sudden there's pirates on their ship and they're taking over, and this is Redfoot. So Redfoot comes in with his crew, and Redfoot's a badass. And Redfoot's basically just like, yep, take all, like, just take all the treasure, you know, let's root and plunder.
Yeah, stock standard pirate stuff.
Yep. And he's kicking, he kicks buddy Sanji's ass. Like, he's a young kid. And even the other pirates are like, whoa, mate, you're brutal. Like, he smashes this kid. So straight away, he's got no remorse for this kid.
He's straight up. He's a proper
He's straight
pirate.
up. And so as he's kicking his ass, right, so he literally kicks him all over this ship. There's a moment there where Sanji, as like let's say he's 8 again, seems to be like, or 10. Let's go 10, because he seems to be the same sort of age as Zoro. He's basically saying, I can't die here. I've got a dream. My dream is to see the all blue. And it's that moment there where, the other pirates sort of laugh at him, thinking like it's not real. And these are pirates that have traveled all over the Grand Line. So again, like they've seen nothing like it. They all think it's like a myth as well. But there's something in that moment when he's spouting his dream to see, like, he can't die because he's got to find the all blue. It's his dream, where it really hits Redfoot, and it's basically
That's his dream.
That's his dream, and you find out that that's his dream. And anyway, so like what? Then there's like at the same time that the pirates are sort of like
Storm happens.
Yeah, the storm happens. That's right, and the storm basically capsizes both of these ships, and then you see basically Sanji, the little boy, is like just drowning in the water, and so he's just obviously just going right to the bottom. And for that moment there, you've got Redfoot dive in after him. So it's like really like, what is going on? The Redfoot was kicking his ass 1 second ago. Then it has this conversation just briefly just about like the all blue, not even a conversation, just here's the kid, talking about his dreams. And then he dives in after him. And then there's that moment there where as Redfoot dives under, his foot gets trapped by these two ships that collide with each other because of the storm. And his foot's trapped. And he can see from afar Sanji's, the kid's just heading straight down to the bottom of the ocean, and he's going to die. And he takes that moment there, that split moment where he basically just grabs the anchor, I think it is. He grabs the anchor, hooks it around his leg that's trapped, and you just see this moment where these two ships above the water just split from each other or go their separate ways, and you see this blood in the air. And it's that really strong scene that you know what's happened, and all of a sudden you see Redfoot sort of swimming down to save the boy. And then all of a sudden...
So this is completely different in the manga.
Is it?
Yeah, he doesn't
Okay.
lose his leg this way in the manga.
Wow. How does he do it?
He eats his leg in the manga when they're on the island.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Because in the manga,
That's
it is like 5 months or something they are on the island. Yeah. For a lot longer.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
That's hectic. That's next
Yeah, 'cause
level.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yep.
That's nuts. That's crazy. I love hearing this. This is so good.
Yeah.
Just the difference between the anime and the manga, like far
Yeah.
out. The manga's got like no limits, hey? No
No.
restrictions. Just go as hard as you want.
Yeah. And that like shows even more the length because I ruined it a little bit, but they like on explain the island.
Yeah.
Scenario,
So
and we'll
anyway,
come back to this.
I can't even remember if like when he's swimming down to save the kid or get the kid, I can't even remember where he grabs the kid or not. They just end up on this island. So like almost like he comes to, and they're stuck on this tiny island. All right, and this island, the way it sort of sits is that they've got like this. I don't know. They're on this island. Like it's tiny, but they can't really get down. I think like the shore has sort of like the water's eroded the bottom of this island, which
Yeah.
sort of like again when I was rewatching this for the purpose of just having this episode, I was sort of like, how the fuck did they get on the top of this island?
during the storm, like washed up on.
Oh,
top
okay,
of
so it's just okay. All right. Okay, so that's how
it.
they
The
got.
waves were probably a lot higher.
Yeah, okay.
Back then.
All right,
yeah.
makes sense. So anyway, so they really can't get down because if they go down, they're not coming back up.
Yep.
So they're stuck on this island. He comes to fruition and he can see that like there's the old mate, Geezer, sitting on like the edge looking out into the ocean. And the Geezer's basically given to this boy like a little, I don't know, brown sack, basically saying, this is your share of food. I want you to go on the other side of the island and look out for a ship. I'm going to do the same here. Don't come over to my side of the island until you see a ship. I want you to stay there and ration out your food. I don't know if he says days or whatnot. Why 5 days? I don't know why 5 days is sort of in my mindset. Because he goes over there and he's got his little sack of food. But then before he goes over there, he can see that the old mate, old geezer, Redfoot, has got this massive sack. And he's like, hey, how come you get this massive sack of food and I get this tiny sack? And he's like, mate, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
You know, I've got to eat more. I'm an adult, so on and so forth. So this is mine. Piss off, basically. So he goes on to the other side of the island. He's like, oh, I'll show you, you know, I'll make sure that we can get the ship and I'll keep this. I'll make sure that we can make my food last as long as possible. So I think for whatever reason, I got 5 days in my mindset. And he says, I'm going to make this food last for 20 days. And he sort of rations it out. And then it shows like, again, it's very much like the Castaway where he's sort of doing the, you know, the days in the rocks, sort of carving that in. And so one day.
So that's how you know in the manga. I think it's like 97 days or something.
Oh, it's nowhere near there on the anime.
Yeah, in the anime. Yep.
Yeah, so it's gone way beyond 20 days, but well under 90 days. If I had to throw a number in, I'd call it probably like 40, maybe 40. I don't know. But anyway, so like he's pretty much eaten all his food. He's gone way beyond the 20 days, and he's eaten like his last bit of bread. And it's a moldy old bread, and he loses that moldy old bread because it falls over, which is devastating. Yeah. And you can see him like he's a shriveled up part of himself. And then, like, I think it's just that moment there where he wants to go and work out, like, I wonder if the geezer's dead. And so he climbs back over, like, the mountain to see on the other side of the island. And the island's not far. Like, it literally, I don't know, you could throw a stone and hit the old man. It's just that you can't see him because it's like it goes up, like, over a terrain then over. And then he goes over there and the old geezer's, like, still sitting there. But he's still got his sack. And it looks like the sack's massively full. And then he's like, oh, that old geezer's still got all this food. And, you know, like, I'm going to kill him.
I'm going
to go kill him. And he gets his little knife, big knife. And then he goes over there and he's like, hey, geezer, I'm going to take all your food. And then he opens it up and there's no food at all. It's just all treasure. And then there's that moment where he's like, fuck, where's your food?
He gave you all the food.
He gave you all his food. And that's that moment where they pan to the geezer and he's like, just like skin and bones. There's nothing left of him. And there's that moment there where you're just like, oh, like he's looked after the kid. He's given him his leg. Now he's given him all his food. He's done everything. He's like sacrificed everything for this child.
Well, because Sanji doesn't really know about the foot, the leg.
No, he doesn't know.
But in the manga he does because he has both legs when they wash up on the island, and then that's when he look. Because like in the anime, it does pan down at his leg, but it doesn't mean as much in the anime. But in the manga, when you see the leg and you're like, He ate his leg to keep alive.
You don't see him eat the leg, do you?
No, it's just
he's
gone.
just
missing. He's just missing the leg, and like you have that pan down, like the panel that's looking at the leg, and he's like, "It's all treasure," and then it pans on the leg, and then you're like,
"Oh, it's gone." Oh,
he's eating himself to keep alive.
That's next level. Like it, yeah, okay. Wow. Imagine reading that for the first time and going that next level on that. That's hectic.
Yeah.
Oh man. So there's that moment there where like the old geezer's just
Sanji realizes how much he has sacrificed for him, a stranger at this point.
That's right. And for someone
alive.
that this is the pirate that basically created all this. Like he was going to kill him. He was going to take his life, and he was taking everything from those that were on the ship, which you never find out what happened to those people. So yeah, nuts. And then all of a sudden,
not at all. You don't know where any of those guys.
No. So I think, and then it comes to that point there where like the geezer sort of just passes out, or he's like just pretty much a death, and then like then a ship comes, and then he just like waves down the ship, and then it fast forwards back to like the Baratie, and then and then just having that conversation about when they first started. It's got that flashback like when they started. Oh no, that's right. They're on the island. Sorry, they're on the island, and he says, "If I can survive this, I want to vow to dedicate for someone or somewhere in the middle of the ocean where people can go to eat."
So no one ever goes hungry ever again.
And that's like the whole part of this when they actually get saved and they start the Baratie, and then it's sort of like that whole, like the one thing like they say from the very start, and it's just the two of them at the very start, and then they take on different people.
Yeah, and that's why they have such a like deep father-son relationship, because they are the first two of the Baratie.
And that they've got that whole mantra where they're like, doesn't matter, you know, who comes through that door. If they're hungry, they're a customer of ours. And that's why Sanji just has no hesitation with feeding someone that needs to be fed. And it's something that like none of the other chefs will get. And it's only that moment you just like, it really hits you hard.
Yeah, 'cause they were never on the island with them. Yeah.
But it's never like the old man throughout like this arc until then just never says anything about the Jin, the Don Krieg or anything like that. He never says anything about feeding them, but Sanji just goes and does it. Almost like it's like he does it because he knows that it's an extension of the geezer, even though the geezer sort of just calls him brat and everything else for it. Yeah, so that's really obviously that's really powerful, and then it opens up to the whole thing of like, again, as I sort of mentioned, like Sanji trying to tell everyone, including Luffy, like he's taken everything from this old man. Yeah. He's taken his legs, taken his ability to be a pirate, taken like his special ability, so to speak, even though he's still a fucking badass. He kicks everyone. Yeah. You know, he has taken everything. The only thing that he holds dear in his treasure is the Baratie, which, again, these pirates are trying to take now.
And nearly like this is, if it hadn't already, this is starting to cement the biggest kind of like understory of One Piece of found family. Like you don't have to be blood to be like father, son, brothers, anything like, and that's what eventually like, the Straw Hats themselves envelop of like, they are a family. And like, and you just see it like even in the next arc, you learn like none of those characters that the main kind of characters are based around, none of them are family either. They're all like adopted, and even the siblings are not blood siblings. They're just adopted by this person and all those kind of stuff. Like the Sanji Zeph kind of relationship is that like father-son, but through circumstances and loyalty and passion and love, not because you are blood related, but because you have genuinely found like a pairing in this world.
Yeah, 100%. So the next part to sort of what happens, at a bit of a fast forward there, is that I forget how does Redfoot get away from it? But I think that there's a moment there where it just sort of turns where they're just like,
he's like, I'm not doing it. Like,
because he says he's not doing it.
I can't do it, Don. They fed me, like, and then that's when Don, you start seeing how low he will go, where he does the
poison,
gas,
H5,
where like That's why when you said, "Oh, maybe Jin comes back," and it's like, yeah, even in all of the things I could look up, like there's no confirmation whether he survived or didn't survive from the gas.
So the one thing we should mention here is that, like, it's it. So once Jin basically says, he breaks down, he says, "Don, I've done everything for you. Like I've obeyed every order that you've done. I've been your loyal 2IC chief commanding officer sort of thing. I've done everything you've ever asked for. Please allow me to spare this person's life because they've saved me." And yeah, Don Krieg's is a dickhead, and he's like, "No, you know, I'm going to destroy you. You know, look at your loyalties changed and more whatnot." And then he does like that, sets up for that H5. I think it's H5, like the bomb.
H5.
Yeah, the
H5
bomb
gas.
Yep. And so like everyone's like, "Oh no, he's doing the gas thing. You know, the poison gas." And so everyone seems to like just rip out this gas mask. And there's not enough gas masks. There's like then there's the three focus on the Jin, Luffy, and Sanji. And there's only 2 gas masks. And like so Jin basically says, like, throws his gas mask away and says, like, "Well, I'm gonna die. It's pretty much fair for me because I disobeyed my captain's orders." And then he ends up throws it.
Man, and it hurts so much that like a good, in a sense, like a good honored person is unfortunately in a life path that ended him up with someone above him so horrible, but him still being so loyal to this horrible person because to the very end. And that's why because he uses his last like breath to smash the mask on Sanji.
Yeah, that's right. So that's how it happens. Like the bomb blows up, and there's like obviously the poison gas everywhere, and then it sort of pans out where you got Sanji who's been saved because Jin basically smashed one of the gas masks on him, and then he threw Luffy, like at the last moment, he threw Luffy his gas mask, and Luffy throws it on, sort of thing, and then Jin's sort of sitting there, and he's just absolutely gassed up. And so he's in all sorts, and they try and save him, but they basically say within 24 hours he's going to be cooked. He's dead.
Yeah,
and that's when
I think he must die because they don't show.
Well, so
him.
So like a bit of a fast forward. Like, like at the end of the day, like they beat him up. They beat up Don Krieg. So Don Krieg's got this massive armor.
That's a fun fight, but it's not important.
Nah, like, and this is the you've already sort of said this. Like this, well, at least these fights. Like this fight wasn't really like super enjoyable, and it wasn't really like it sort of dragged on a little bit.
I think it was in a sense of like it's short.
Yeah, it was short, and it was a part there where it was like it was pretty much just Don Krieg had this super armor on, this gold super armor that no one's been able to penetrate, and Luffy just through sheer constant battering of this armor ends up breaking it, and he breaks through barriers that have got spikes, and he like.
Do you know what? Yeah, one thing about the spikes that annoys me in the anime, they don't show the consequences. Like we've seen, like slashing stuff actually does stuff to Luffy.
Yeah, that's right.
And he pushes through it. And in the manga, like once he punches through it, when he brings his hand back, it's like a bleeding, bloody
he's
mess.
wrecked. Yeah.
But it's not in the anime.
Yeah.
Like it's not that bad. Like he just punches through it, and it's just like
Well, the thing is, but they have an emphasis because they call it, I don't know. This is like his porcupine like sheet that he sort of protects himself at the end. But then he does smash through it, and his like hands just go through all these spikes, and his hand and everything's just messed up. It's bleeding, but it only lasts for a certain period, and then all of a sudden it just relaxes and it doesn't have too much. But it's way better than like poison sticky darts like you were talking about with that kid's for. So that's just stupid. So he ends up smashing him. So Don Krieg goes down. Like everyone sort of rejoices, and then you've got
you've got the Luffy, Sanji, Zeph kind of love triangle not love triangle, but like you know them trying to figure out what's the next scenario because like the crew's just take Sanji, and even I think the rest of the chefs are as well, just take him. Not Zeph, but like the rest of them are like, just take him. And then that's the first time like Luffy's like, no, he's not coming with us.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm not ever taking somebody like against their will. Like, I want them to say they want to join my pirate crew.
Which is interesting because like when he was first on there, he's like, I refuse your refusal. Like, you know, he's pushing hard for it.
Yeah, because he knows at that stage, it's like, it's a half-ass no.
Yeah.
Like, while now, like, he knows, like, the reasons, and he that's what I'm saying, like, Luffy is smarter than people give him credit for, because he knows at that stage, like, Sanji needs to do one last thing before he leaves, and that's where he, like, I will like. It's not like, no, I'm not taking you into will like at the start, where it's like, no, I refuse. It's more like, you need to do one last thing before you join my crew.
Yeah, and Sanji sort of says that
you
like,
need to finish it up.
Sanji wants to go, like almost like Sanji wants to go, and Sanji wants to go into the Great Line because he knows he needs to follow his dream. And all the way through the fights and that, the old geezer
feels like he's still owed.
Yeah, that's right. He still feels attached and morally is committed there. And so there's that moment right at the very end where, like, again, all the cooks are basically like, get out of here, we don't actually need you, after everything he's done. And I think it's like at the end he sort of overhears them say like he needs to go with you, and like he's a fantastic cook, but he needs to go, he needs to chase his dreams. And so he ends up making the decision after hearing that, just going, oh, you thought you could get away with me just sort of lying and, you know, trampling on my pride and all the rest of it, you could have done something much better. But he leaves. But then there's just that, just to cement everything you go through with this arc, all like the emotional heartstrings on it, they just have that last moment where these two, Redfoot and Sanji, have sort of just beaten up on each other, that hard love that they give each other just through banter and nothing else. They haven't shown any sort of empathy for each other except for those moments when Sanji says, like, I've taken everything from him, I have to defend what he has left as his treasure. There's just that moment where he's leaving, and even Luffy says, oh, do you want to say goodbye to the chef? And he says, no, it's okay. And then he's about to get on the ship, and then Redfoot sort of reaches out and says, you know, Sanji, make sure you take care of yourself. And it's the only nice thing that he says through the whole arc, and Sanji just absolutely loses it and starts crying, and you're just like, oh, like just that moment there, like just those.
And he does the big, huge bow and like thanks him for
all of it, and it's like all those years of pent up, like, just like everything just comes out on that one scene there, which is really, really, really powerful. And then, if I can end it up, it throws back to Nami, who like said the suya halfway through. She's off. Yeah. And she's sort of setting, like she's on the Going Merry, and there's that moment there where she sort of says like, I hope one day they'll let me back if we meet again. Hopefully one day they'll let me on the crew.
Yeah, and then it shows the sign of Arlong Park. And then you still don't know what's going on, but
and then she has that,
you see her being sad about.
So you go from like hating her again to that moment there, and then she says something, I just want the freedom. I just want to be free is what the last thing she sort of says. And then she starts to cry, and you're like, oh, fuck, this sets it up to the next one.
Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and the next arc is the shit. So, like, this is, in a nutshell for me, this is the whole, like, this is where...
They packed a lot into this.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, this episode's
a lot of different things. Like, they pack a lot into the next arc, but it's about one thing. Yep. This, they packed a lot, and... We not only got, like, the world-building stuff that, like, what I said kind of saves Syrup Arc a little bit, like the world-building stuff, but the main plot's not that good. But we got a amazing side plot with the Zoro backstory and the Mihawk story.
Yeah, so we got all these new introductions of
world-building stuff with Grand Line.
Being as huge and
we didn't
dangerous
talk
as
about
it
it
is.
enough with Mihawk, but this is our first introduction to the... Ooh, what are they called in the...
This is where, like, for me, it was like people in the Grand Line are extremely strong.
They're called the 7 Warlords of the Sea.
Yeah, okay.
And Mihawk is one of the 7 Warlords of the Sea.
Again, you don't find any of this out at this point in time in here. It's just all of this feels is that it really cements the fact that there is extremely powerful people beyond the East Blue, and that he even says
you're in the little pond, and we haven't even got to the ocean yet.
Well, and he even says, like, and I think this is, like, said this a few times up to this episode, but they say, again, the East Blue is the weakest, and you said this, and like they say, the character actually does state this, like, you guys are the weakest. Come out into the big world. Which is really, really cool. And this, like, sets it up. So there's a lot in this. This is where the storytelling
ignites
builds.
your sense of adventure.
I know.
Because, like, as I keep repeating, this is an adventure anime, not a fighting or, like, what's the name anime. Like, it's about the journey.
I like and this is from a storytelling perspective, like, and this is why I like animes. I like animes for the storytelling element, the emotional feels, the hearts. I don't mind things that sort of drag on if there's a build up to it, as long as they can keep you. And I think this, from someone that is trying to watch anime, if you like, again, this was me in the hurdle with Syrup Village. I didn't make it past Syrup Village, and this is the next arc. And it only takes one episode after Syrup Village to sort of like start clawing at you. And so by this isn't, to me, this wasn't the arc that did me. This was the arc that sort of gone, oh shit, there's more to this. This is actually really, this is really. Yeah.
It starts showing you that it's not like an RPG where you got to take 100 hours for it to turn good. One Piece is always good. It just will reward you for waiting for things. Yeah. Like I've seen things in 900 episodes in the future that I'm like, yep, that was worth the wait. Like it was worth, the build up to it to get these rewards. Like it's not like it just turns good all of a sudden. It's like even Syrup Arc, like it is setting up things to be good for you in a sense. Like it's not just like all of a sudden it turns good. Like it's not like certain comedies where season 1's just average and then it turns good season 2. It's like, no, imagine season 1 was your building for season 2 in a sense.
Yeah, 100% I agree. Like it probably sounds like that when like I'm reflecting on it. That it like oh, you got to get past this point to get it good, but it is the build up. The reason why it's good now is because of the build up. You have to have those moments, and it's even now. Like as a person that's into it now, like how do you describe that to people that are like, 1,000 episodes? It's just like it's so hard as like once you're in to then be like, guys on the outside, I know I used to be one of you. Yeah, but I'm in the mindset. I'm still in the mindset because I'm in the early days here. I think I'm up to episode just about to hit 100. I think I'm 97, 98. I'm still very much in the mindset of going, keep going. But if by the end of the next arc, if it doesn't hit you, and this
is your first warning in this arc. This is it.
First
warning.
If you're starting to get tingles here, right? That's cool, but it hits hard and home in the heart and the soul next arc. And if it hasn't got you next arc, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not for you.
I don't think I've talked to a viewer that has continued on with One Piece that didn't cry in the next arc.
I would like to actually I'd love to talk to someone that has watched all the way up to the next arc and just say it wasn't for me. And and of no judgment whatsoever. I just really want to know what was it? Is it because maybe the context and everything?
Who hurt you as a child?
Leave him alone, Nato. Leave him alone.
That you were so emotionally void that arc doesn't wrap
the only thing I can think of, I'm probably throwing this out early, but the only thing I can think of is that maybe it was potentially blown for you. But it's so difficult because even the next arc, there's so many moments that I've seen on socials, and you've said it many times to me. Sometimes it can be really extremely difficult to spoil things without the full context of what it is. I've seen heaps of scenes. Well, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know who he is. I don't know what that's supposed to represent. But now,
because you need the build up to it. Yeah. You need the 30 episodes to get to the next arc to make sense.
Yeah. And even the Zoro when he's he gets slashed down by Hawkeye and he's giving that vow to Luffy. You've probably seen that.
Yeah,
and I have. That's it. So I've seen that many times on socials, and I've seen the whole heartstrings and how much that has sort of hit people. And again, I feel good that I'm part of that club now. I understand it. I get it, and it hits hard. But not as hard as next arc.
I watched a top 10 greatest moments for One Piece, and you've hit one of them so far, and that's it. And I'm just God, and I'm watching him, I'm pausing after each one, and I'm oh, that's right. All right, next one. Yep, greatest moment. Oh, yep. Oh, that's 10th nearly, the next arc one. There's some...
I'm happy. I'm just so happy to go in this blind. I'm so happy.
As I said, there's not a lot of deaths, but the deaths are gonna... that wasn't a death. The next arc. So imagine somebody's going to die proper in this series.
I have not experienced
and how much Oda is going to hit you with that.
Yeah, okay. Well, just keep everything silent. This thing's been out for... How many years has it been out? What did we say?
25, I think, was 2 years ago. Well, I think we're 27.
So far, I've been pretty good. We've been spoiler-free. I've been going in blind. I've been enjoying it.
There's like 2 events that I don't ever want people to spoil in One Piece.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And I hope they never do for people that want to watch it.
Very good. Such a massive investment to then
Which
have
is
those,
wild.
those
In
moments
over 1,000 episodes, there's only 2 single moments that will ruin it if you get spoiled.
Oh, that's why I'm so scared of socials. I'm so scared of socials because it's more so when I start like towards one of those arcs and I see character
next week or the week
development.
after is the episode that's probably going to have the big one.
Yeah, okay.
The second one that's going to happen.
Bloody hell. All right, mate. So
you should probably stay off social media.
Yeah, okay.
In the next couple of days.
It's more Instagram bloody shorts and that because the algorithm knows how much I'm looking into it. You know why, Nato? Because you keep sending me all those little shorts messages. So Zucks knows that I'm bloody looking at this
you
stuff.
now understand them.
Oh yeah, the algorithms, mate. Let's leave it there. So where are we going in our next episode? Where's the next arc?
All right, so we are going into, as we alluded, our Long Park arc. So this is, yet again, we're jumping up 2 more episodes for this arc. We're going into a 14-episode arc.
So this was 12, that's 14, yep.
Yeah, this is 12. So this is going to be episode 31 to 44, our Long Park. And no fillers yet. We get fillers literally straight after that.
Is there still no fillers yet? Still no fillers?
No fillers. No.
Hell. Okay.
We have some manga fillers, if that makes sense, but they're anime canon.
Yeah,
because they get referenced to, and because there's 2 levels of filler. There's pure filler, and then there's anime filler, where it's like it is not in the manga, but it is referenced later and is part of the story and all those kind of things.
Okay. So
it must have just been things Oda wanted to add in later on once it got to the anime and all that.
I'm very keen to talk with you about my first impressions about this next arc.
Because it's not like this one where there's multiple things and we're nearly 2 hours on this episode.
Yeah.
But next one, it's just one scene.
Yeah.
Is so good.
But I want to know, Nato, with your keen eye and your background and understanding of this, I want to know all the symbolism. I want to know all the little things that I potentially may have missed, may have overlooked. And I'm also very keen.
I'll just say, I still bawl my eyes out if I watch it in a YouTube short, if I rewatch the episode. So me having to now rewatch this whole arc is going to destroy me yet again.
You're going to love it.
And woof.
And I want to know what the differences is with the manga. So when we have a chat about this, if there's any differences, I would like to know because that whole eating of the foot bit just blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I didn't know that.
That's what I mean. Where if you start getting to a point, you should also start I know you're a busy man, so it's not probably going to be possible, but you should read the manga because it is a little bit of a different, and you get these tiny little moments, and the art.
Yeah, I know.
I've showed you a few times.
Yeah. Especially that scar. Especially the scar. I've seen the meme. I think I saw it today. Someone, wasn't even
single frame scenes are better in the manga and action is better in the anime. So sometimes there's things in the manga that I'm like, I can't wait to see this fight animated. Hell yeah. This is going to be awesome. And man, the current where we're at with 1.0, the animation is getting on the level of being better than all the other animes at the moment. It is better. The recent fight with Sanji and Zoro's fights were way better than any visual fights in Demon Slayer. I'm going to say it.
What?
There's going to be people coming at me.
I don't know. Okay. All right. I haven't seen it. So
because I've watched people do breakdowns panel by panel and actually things are in the animation of the person being a child while they're doing the power, but you don't see it while the animation is happening. But
cool.
if you freeze frame, and I'm like,
I love that detail. Oh, that's sick. I'm excited for you, mate. I'm only 1,000 episodes away.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, let's call it on this one.
One last thing.
Okay.
Just to add in.
All right.
That's I saw somebody talk about it in a clip of that's also another reason to watch One Piece. Because you get to see the evolution of anime over the last 30 years. Because, One Piece has been running nonstop and constantly up. Usually
Upscaling.
at the start of an arc, they usually will get better at a certain animation. And it's nearly like a museum of anime from the 90s up until now, of like the evolution of anime. So,
But I like
if you
that
don't want
too.
it for the story.
Yeah.
Come for at least the museumness of like watching the evolution of how the art of anime has evolved over the last nearly 30 years.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Mate, always a pleasure. Thank you
Wrap it
for
up.
being on. All right, so guys, thank you so much for joining in for another episode of the Boy in the Barrel podcast. I think we've really honed in on that name. We're sort of I feel like this podcast, mate, we sort of jumped off this cliff and we're just building this airplane as we go. But mate, it's the only way.
followed it.
It's the only way we know how.
Luffy would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think
all right?
so. 100%, mate. Mate, on the socials, where can people follow you if they want to jump on and follow you?
The best place to find me is on Twitter at IKnowNato. I'm IKnowNato elsewhere, but Twitter's the easily way to get in contact with me. Tell me your favorite stuff. Tell me your favorite theories. Get into the deep, deep iceberg of Reddit fan theories, because we are in a wild, like, time travel is probably real. This is probably real. That's probably real. We don't even know what's going on. I know nearly as much as you about what's happening as the story 1,000 episodes later. That's how wild things just happen every arc in One Piece.
Wow. Well, I'm Dane.
I think I know what's going on, and I don't.
Well, I certainly don't. I'm about 100 episodes in. So if you're more on my speed, if you're watching it for the first time, maybe you're watching it again and you just couldn't push through after seeing Usopp join the crew. Give me your feedback. Tell me, how did you enjoy this arc? Have you pushed through from this one here? I'm definitely keen to see those that have sort of stayed on and went through to the next arc, and those who jumped off. Very keen. My name is Dane Peavy. You can find me at Dane Peavy on Twitter and mainly Instagram, I guess. Do a bit of shorts there. Thank you so much once again for joining. Hope you enjoy this podcast. Whether you're a long-time viewer of One Piece or watching it for the first time, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Goodbye!
See ya.
Yo.